This is Stefan Schmidt for InsiderIowa.com. We're at Iowa State in the Dairy Science Research Facility, which was one of the most modern in the world. They do a lot of very high-tech research here on all kinds of foods and food processing. I wanted to talk about the end of the legislative session. It just ended this year, and it was very interesting. There were all kinds of things done. We reorganized state government, and we saved a lot of money, cut a lot of expenses. Some people lost their jobs, which is unfortunate, but they did meet the goal of trying to basically balance the budget. And Iowa has done better than most states. Some of the states are really broke. California and New York and some others are in very bad shape. Iowa is okay. But I wanted to just mention a couple of offbeat stories. Charlotte Eby from the Cedar Rapids Gazette did a nice story on that today, and I was quoted in it because she always knows she can get me to talk about offbeat stuff that politicians do. We passed laws in Iowa that are kind of interesting. One, we passed a texting law so that kids, young people are not going to be allowed to text and use electronic devices while driving, but we kind of left it for adults to, I guess, be able to go ahead and do that more or less. So discriminating against young people, who my friend Arnie Arneson said this morning, they probably know how to text a lot more proficiently and maybe without even looking at their keyboard than people who are not so used to it. But there you have it, one law. The second law is, in Iowa, the sheriffs have a tremendous amount of power in each 99 county offices to limit the licensing of concealed weapons. And the National Rifle Association made a big push. There's a lot of populist sort of sentiment out there. The Tea Party, is very active and trying to kind of get government off people's backs. And surprisingly, the legislature, which is controlled by Democrats, is going to now have a standard requirement for all of Iowa on how you obtain a license to carry a concealed weapon, making it much easier. In some counties, it's very difficult to get those concealed weapons permits and permit to carry, and so that's an interesting direction. The whole country is going gun crazy, let's call it that. Gun sales are up. Sometimes there are shortages of ammunition. You can't even get enough ammunition. And I guess Iowa is part of that national trend, which, by the way, includes the statistic that women are suddenly buying firearms, mostly for personal protection, in incredibly large numbers. The third law that's interesting, and some of you who are not in Iowa, and I know that we have a lot of viewers and listeners across the world and across the United States, will be interested that we also changed the Iowa law so that the bars and clubs can buy high alcohol content beer much more easily. They don't have to go through a limited number of distributors. They can actually buy it now directly from distributors. They don't have to go through the Iowa Alcohol Commission. And so we've got guns, alcohol, and texting. Those are not sort of the normal fare for state legislatures. But in a year when the populist uprising is going on, and people want, I guess, a little more freedom, unless you're underage, we have passed some laws that are very interesting and surprising to some extent. So thought I'd share that with you. Stefan Schmidt for InsiderIowa.com in the Dairy Building and this Dairy Science Building at Iowa State, which is actually a food science center.